So welcome, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on the fantastic Getronics cloud solution, Workspace as a Service. My name is Justin Parks, and my role as the Director of Online Services is to develop and to take to market the Getronics cloud portfolio. With the fast-changing world of IT, this portfolio is becoming ever more important. And so today we will explore in some detail a fundamental service which I hope you'll find interesting and relative to your workspace strategy. The Workspace as a Service offering from Getronics is a replacement IT workspace solution. We hope that you will consider as part of your workspace strategy moving forward. And of course, I work with a lot of great people at Getronics, and I'd like to introduce Henk Halen, who will be presenting with me today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Henk Halen. I'm Solution Portfolio Manager for Getronics within Belgium. Together with Justin and other colleagues, I make sure we define a well-scoped portfolio and explain it relative to the Belgian and local market. I work a little bit over 25 years for Getronics, was mainly responsible for operational teams in network, data center, security, and also Workspace. And Workspace is the area we will talk to you about today, and specifically Workspace as a Service, which is one of the delivery models we can offer potentially to you as a customer for delivering Workspace in your organization. So let's look a little bit to the agenda we have today for you. I think it's important that we explain to you, although you probably are aware what WAS stands for, but that we explain what the Getronics Workspace as a Service includes and what's included and what's not included as well. And with every introduction of a new solution in your organization, I'm sure you're looking to items that can help you in underpinning the business case. So also we will give you a few ideas how WAS can help you within the business case in your organization. And of course, that's all theory. We also like to show you the real solution. So Justin will demonstrate the self-service portal we have included in our Workspace as a Service offering, and then we can talk a little bit through the Getronics proposition and the next steps we can bring to you within this nice offering. I think it's also important that through our explanation that whenever you have a question, don't hesitate to type it in the chat area so that we can afterwards, after the slides, we can get an answer to you as quickly as possible.
Fantastic, Henk. Thanks very much. So let's begin the session with a little bit of background information on our portfolio and how the Workspace as a Service solution is relevant to our universal workspace vision. Getronics has a strong heritage in ICT with a focus on workspace services. We've been doing this for a very, very long time, over 100 years, focusing on these types of services. Our propositions and capabilities are developed with the workspace in mind, as this is a fundamental service that is visible to every end user. It becomes core of the way they deliver services into their own businesses and how they perform their roles. We have a multi-layered capabilities model with the end user and the workspace at the very core of all the services. Each of the capabilities contributes to enabling the business user to be more productive and to be able to work in a more flexible and effective manner, being able to take all of those services, deliver their daily role by using the workspace into their daily roles. This means that our services are not only focused on providing appropriate devices or deploying collaboration tools or even building virtualized platforms for the data center, but we acknowledge and see that the entire architecture and the underlying support services play a pivotal role in the end-to-end workspace service required by all of our customers. And so the Workspace as a Service proposition contributes to providing this workspace architecture and delivers it as a cloud-based service. You should not consider the proposition in isolation, as all of the supporting services that Getronics are well known for, like remote support with the proactive management and the monitoring, the on-site support with all of our existing field services, are still very much a part of the end-to-end service that we deliver. The Workspace as a Service proposition that we're talking about today is a hybrid service which means that it provides IT capabilities across a whole wide spectrum of user roles, whether these be process workers or knowledge workers, whether they work in a contact center type role or whether they are front-end sales type roles. These include requirements for thin client computing, or the use of laptops or desktops, where applications may and still be required to be deployed and managed locally on those devices. So we have our support teams and field engineers still able to access those services as well as delivering thin client services directly to thin client devices in the environment. Importantly, of course, our proposition is built in such a way as to offer a workspace delivery model that supports a customer in the way in which they want to work, while still providing all of the core technology capabilities I spoke about previously. By providing a fully integrated service, each of the architecture building blocks form a single service. This includes from the data center, the underlying hosting platform, the application presentation layer that carries all of the apps to the end user. Accessing these through the endpoint devices of choice, so where customers can select which devices they choose to enact with the service. And of course, a high degree of automation across the entire stack of the platform. And through all of this, we're able to present the complete workspace as a service. So we cater for all of these components, as well as cater for all of the capabilities that we have across our entire portfolio stack.
So Workspace as a service, the way we deliver it, it's really a complete workspace solution. So this WAS can be a full replacement, a modern replacement of your IT infrastructure in total as really an end-to-end solution or as being a part of it. It provides really the users to always on access to their applications and the data in a way they can really be productive in their role for their organization and can contribute to the success of their own company. It's a new way of delivering a workspace in a real and pure pay-per-use model. So you only pay for that portion of the service you really need at that moment in time, and you are really empowered whether you are an IT professional delivering IT services to your organization or you're an end user in your organization. You have the self-service portal, and depending on your profile, you really are empowered to manage and scope the environment for your end users, or the end user can manage a lot of things through the self-service portal themselves, which we will also show in the demo later. So in this way, because it's really pay-per-use, you can manage your IT operational cost in a cost-efficient way through this workspace as a service offering. Online services, while valuable in their own right, are not expected to be provided as a standalone offering. Getronics prides itself on providing an end-to-end service adapted to meet the needs of each individual client. As we previously discussed, a customer's IT requirement is seldom going to be provided from a single platform type, or rarely will everything be in the cloud. Frequently, clients will be buying services, whether traditional or our online services, from a number of suppliers even. And even if that were possible for an organization, they are not going to make the switch in one giant leap. Getronics Workspace as a service are part of an end-to-end portfolio of services, managed capabilities, and consultancy. Getronics has the history and experience to combine these innovative new services models with traditional IT outsourcing and managed services as well.
So let me just take a brief moment just to talk about the rest of the cloud portfolio. Within Getronics, this is the online services portfolio. Just to give you a bit of background as to where the Workspace as a service fits into the overarching cloud portfolio that we deliver. So our cloud portfolio is also multi-layered, with a foundation as infrastructure as a service layer underpinned by converged infrastructure. Here we provide the compute, the networking, and storage, which is used by any of the hosted virtual machines which may be hosted within the platform. And that caters for customers that not only have IaaS services through us, but also those customers that take advantage of the Workspace service but may have application servers that need to be hosted as well. Our disaster recovery as a service provides the protection for all of the workloads across the entire portfolio as required. And this includes any customer application server that is hosted on IaaS as well. So the customer can select whether an application is mapped to the disaster recovery service as well, and this is automatically replicated in a different data center. That provides the overarching protection across the application space, as well as any of the workload servers that may be required. We have a significant network backbone in the data center. Typically, this is a multi-10 gig backbone, and that ensures the quality of service across the workspace and the infrastructure services. Clearly, we also provide any internet breakout from this network as well. The platform takes advantage of some key technologies, and we're proud to be accredited by Cisco through the Cloud and Managed Services program, as well as by EMC, the cloud services provider. Getronics is vendor agnostic, so we've got a number of great vendor partnerships and vendor technologies that build up the entire portfolio of cloud services. The next layer is the core Workspace as a service layer, which is hosted on the IaaS service I've just spoken about. And this provides all of the features for the workspace that we're talking about and presenting in the webinar today. Here we host the virtual desktops and incorporate a customer domain for authentication purposes. This also includes two-factor authentication and users accessing the service remotely over the internet. Well, this is for users accessing the service over the internet. User connectivity provided over a customer MPLS network or for home or remote workers via an SSL gateway directly into the service. In each instance, of course, the same user experience is provided, which includes access to the user's virtual workspace or virtual desktop, and is able to deliver the same applications and resources across both instances. A lot of work goes into migrating customer applications into this layer, and being able to present these to the virtual desktops for easy access to each user is something that is very, very important for that user experience you're talking about. The network is configured in such a way as to provide a client-server applications access and allows them to function correctly, including, of course, any database services which are themselves managed by our DBA across the service. And finally, we have what we call a sort of cloud enablement layer. This layer provides all of the process automation, the orchestration, and workflow tooling, which is central to the entire portfolio. I'll discuss this layer in a little bit more detail in the webinar a little bit later on, and of course provide a short demonstration of the user portal in action, which is also provisioned in the cloud enablement layer. As Henk mentioned earlier, one of our key objectives is to provide an aggregation model, which enables additional services, whether those be from our customers or whether those be third-party services. So we want to try and provide that layer to aggregate those services through that cloud enablement software. And of course, it's the cloud enablement software layer that allows us to achieve this aggregation.
So let's take a look a little bit to the components that can help you build a business case for Workspace as a service. Why do organizations need Workspace as a service? Consumerization of IT driving expectations that the same easy access to apps, resources, and data should apply to the Workspace as well. By migrating to Workspace as a service, you essentially make redundant all or most of the IT infrastructure in your own data center or in some cases server rooms. Data center, server and applications can therefore be rationalized, which can be an added value for an organization, of course. Quality service from Getronics, we are a trusted partner with over a century of experience, certainly with a strong focus and heritage within the Workspace. True workspace service agility it's expected by your business. Do you recognize the need for quickly provisioning users or deploying new applications? Through WAS, you can really get that done in an easy way. And of course, the benefit for reducing in upfront and ongoing software licenses. It's often a challenge to keep up with the license management in your organization. Sometimes you are not compliant, and in a lot of cases you are paying too much for your licenses. And through Workspace as a service, you can really right-size your license management for your organization. Workspace as a service, it really helps you in becoming more flexible if it comes to IT services. It really replaces end-to-end your old IT infrastructure and can help you become really agile in your IT services to your end users. We do this mainly through building in automation in all levels, and it doesn't add complexity, because through self-service we really are putting a layer in front of the end user which is easy to use, and with that easy-to-use self-service portal they can really do complex things through the automation which is running in the backend and managed by Getronics in this as-a-service offering. Because it's a pay-per-use offering, you only pay for that what you really are using at that specific moment. So meaning that you have a transparent costing model to your business, and it's really a consumption-based billing model we are offering through this service. And because of the high availability of this Workspace as a service, we increase also the productivity of your end users. They don't have to wait for changes to be done. They are empowered to do a lot of changes through the portal themselves, which helps them in becoming more productive and more efficient for your organization. So really there is a compelling business case that maps not only to improve the productivity through the always-on service, but the real benefits to IT departments in the agility, in the ability to test applications more quickly, or to provision new starters in a fraction of time with allocated resources and applications. Automated provisioning of applications, users, and folders, folder access without the need to call the service desk. So you don't have to wait for a service desk to contact the second line to have a folder access defined. No, the user, through a controlled process of validation, can do a lot of things themselves. We have seen a minimum of 25% reduction in service desk tickets through the use of the online services portal. And a new starter in an organization, really, it can be activated in a few minutes, where it probably in the old world can take even days before every functionality is active for that new starter in your organization. WAS can scale as required by business demand. Capacity issues and managing hardware now becomes a thing of the past. Let Getronics worry about that your IT teams can focus on new applications and IT projects that really contribute to the business growth. So no hardware changes or maintenance needed. We take as Getronics care of that in the back end. Once you are using the service, you will have no more frustrations and costly infrastructure migrations or even upgrade projects to run.
Thanks very much, Henk.
So at this point, I'd like to provide a quick demonstration of how you would go about using the online services portal within the Workspace service. Initially, you would log into the broker, which essentially allows us to get access to the full virtual workspace, as well as accessing any of those applications which we might require to have access to outside of the broker. So as an example here, I can log in immediately to Microsoft Outlook or Microsoft Link or Microsoft Excel from any device like a tablet or a laptop. In this particular example, I'm going to log into the virtual workspace. It's the demo workspace in this instance. So here you can see that we've logged into the virtual workspace. It looks and feels exactly the same as any other virtual machine or a standard desktop or laptop. In this instance, we've done it to a Windows 7 machine. We can deploy Windows 8 machines as well, or even previous versions if that is required as part of your workspace service. And here you can see I've immediately got access to Microsoft Link, and I've also got access to all of the applications and programs that I may have access to that I would have on any traditional desktop or laptop. I'm going to log into the online services portal. So I open Internet Explorer or any of the other browsers that I have access to, and immediately log in to the URL that provides immediate access to the portal. And this is the portal front screen. We have single sign-on, so there is no requirement to provide additional authentication into the online services portal. It works directly with the Workspace service that you've subscribed to or that you are running your virtual workspaces in. And from this online services portal, one of the main components that we have, which is very, very useful from an IT perspective, is, of course, the user information. In this particular instance, you can see I'm logged in as the IT manager, and I'll explain why that is relevant a little bit later. But what I can do as an end user is I can immediately update all of the information that is required from an Active Directory authentication perspective, as well as from a company perspective. So things like my job title, the phone number, mobile information, and we use the mobile information for those instances where two-factor authentication is required, that we can actually send someone a single one-time password directly to their smartphone if it's not indeed running the automated software on that phone. So by quickly updating the information, we've not had to log any call to the service desk to update our information. We can apply it directly through the online services portal. You can also see that there are a number of tabs available at the top of the screen. Now, these tabs vary depending on the status of the particular user that is logging in. With the traditional workspace service, we have a number of different user roles. Within Workspace as a service, we have a customer administrator role, who will obviously have access to not only create departments, but manage departments, but also create users and manipulate the software and the consumption for a particular user. We also then have a department manager. The department manager can also create users and can view the services that pertain directly to their department. In this instance, like I said, I'm logged in as the IT manager, so I'm essentially a department manager for a number of users. And then, of course, you have the user view, where the user logs in. The user can only perform certain tasks that are relevant to themselves, and that includes things like subscribe to additional applications and services. It's usually the department manager and IT administrator that authorizes access to any of those applications that the end user subscribes to. So let me just show you what that looks like. In the first instance, as an IT manager, I can go and have a look at any of the requests that have been made from different users within my business, and these requests are visible under My Tasks. So if I click on My Tasks, you can very, very quickly see whether I have any tasks available for authorization. In this instance, I don't have any. But what would happen is that a user would request access to an application, and the workflow would initially kick off a request from the department manager for authorization to a particular application. And I can provide the relevant authorization for that application under My Tasks. As an end user, I can also log in and have a look at the applications that I currently have or may request access to. So if I click on Manage My Apps, in this instance, we can very, very quickly see the different groups of applications and services that are available as part of the Workspace service that I've subscribed to. I can initially click on Manage Subscribed Applications, and this will bring up those services that that this particular user has access to. So as an IT manager in this instance, I've got access to internet access, remote access, I have a mailbox, and I've access to Microsoft Outlook, Excel, and link services. I can also unsubscribe to any one of these services. Now that's important because if you're a user that has access to an application like Microsoft Project and only requires access to that service or access to the application for a little while, you can then unsubscribe once you're complete with that application. And that brings down the cost of that service moving forward. I can click on access to my business applications. This is the location where you will find all of your customer-specific applications, so all of your business applications that we migrate into the service. So this is essentially our software catalog. And you can immediately see that I can go in and I can subscribe to any of these applications. We have a number of Microsoft Office applications that I can subscribe to. So if I have a look here and I need access to Microsoft Word, I can go down to Microsoft Word. I can subscribe to Microsoft Word. I then get the option to deploy that bit of software to a traditional desktop or laptop in the case of a thick client computing environment, or whether just to deploy it to my virtual workspace. And I can place that request. Once that request has been placed, I get notification to say that the request has been placed. From this menu, I can also have a look at my specific mailbox. Now, this is real time, so the service will go off and actually grab information from my particular mailbox and provide relevant access to that mailbox. So this includes mailbox size, whether I've exceeded my quota limit or whether I'm in limit. I can also subscribe to additional mailbox size. So you'll be able to see that information there. So that's a brief overview of how the online services portal works. Clearly, as we migrate and as we move additional services into the Workspace as a service, so you will find the additional services become available as part of the online services portal. We add in the aggregated cloud services. We add in any additional Microsoft applications. We also add in additional Getronics services. So this will include things like your internet access and remote access. We also provide access to file folders and shares, and you will find these as part of the file shares location. And as I said before, all of the business applications will be included in here. So that's very quickly an overview of the online services portal and how we automate a number of those IT processes for the immediate self-service or actioning of any of the services that your users wish to subscribe to.
So we had a quick look at the self-service portal. The portal is included as part of the service, with every user having access to the portal with his appropriate or his or her appropriate delegated rights, enabling obviously the controlled access and management of the business applications, the resources, the folders that need to be accessed by each of the users, and of course any of the new services and features that we add as part of the ongoing development work within the Workspace service. Multiple access devices, clearly we've spoken about it already. Most users already have a requirement to use smartphones. They're likely going to have a tablet device, and of course any other endpoint devices that may need to be connected to the service we can cater for. The fully automated service request, we're able to manage and automate the workflow between each of these service requests. So we can set up the different tiers of authorization for specific applications or specific services that might be appropriate within each of the Workspace services that are defined for a particular customer. The process of managing all of these service requests is also fully automated, and the workflow includes built-in multi-level tier approval processes, which we define as part of the migration process. The service is accredited fully to ISO 27001 standards, and of course securely hosted from certified Tier 3 data centers. I spoke earlier about the integrated disaster recovery service, so we can take a good look at the applications that are hosted within the Workspace service and work very, very closely with each one of you to define which application gets mapped to that DR service and how that replication needs to take place for each and every one of those particular application sets. So if we have a look at the different features which are included, I'll run through some of the most obvious functions and features that every good workspace service should have the capabilities to deliver. Obviously, there's the user access method. This obviously includes the virtual workspace, whether it be a persistent desktop or a published desktop, depending on the types of services and applications that need to be delivered. The thin clients, as well as whether they are mapped to a thick client computing environment as well. So, in other words, we also support the devices like thick clients, like desktops, laptops, and all of the different endpoint devices that a customer might use. Collaboration services is included, and we include email. The email is mapped to our Exchange environment, so Exchange 2013. Instant messaging and presence is obviously something that is very, very important as part of users being able to collaborate with each other. In this particular area, we have Link 2013 as part of the overall collaboration service. And this Link service can be mapped directly to any of the telephony services that any of our customers have within that workspace service as well. Obviously, we have additional user-centric services. So these are services that any infrastructure would have in place today. This includes the directory services for authentication. So I spoke about that earlier. Each customer has their own discrete domain. That domain can be set up and managed and controlled by the workspace service. So it's consistent and there's standards applied. We have the portal, obviously reporting directly against those consumed services. So it's very, very important that we're able to deliver reports based on which user is using what, so which application, which services they have subscribed to, and of course things like how much they have in their home drive, how much they've got in their mailbox, the quota size limits that they each have mapped towards their email service and archiving service as well. And we can also show how much storage has been taken up for any file shares, like shared file data that might be required as part of that service. We include, obviously, printing services. So we map the any MFD type service into the platform. We manage and control the print queues, the print drivers for that consistent service across the board. And, of course, we support a myriad of different types of printers. And, of course, the service also has the data storage side of things. So I spoke a little bit about that before, but essentially every user has a home drive. Every user has access to a shared location for sharing data as well. In terms of the business applications, I think this is one of the most important part of the service. Just delivering a virtual desktop or a persistent desktop without the key core business applications within that service, you wouldn't have a very, very useful platform at all. So we've spent a huge amount of time and effort and built standard migration methodologies around adding applications into the service. So we have a team of people that can prepare your applications, and these are the client-side applications as well as the server or hosted applications that we have. They prepare the application, they add the applications into the overarching service catalog. I showed you in the demonstration what that might look like. So every user then gets access to that catalog where they can select and subscribe to each one of the applications. And these obviously include all of the legacy applications that most organizations can't move away from, and therefore are still very, very important in terms of the overarching workspace strategy. So that's access to email, that's access to data. We migrate the applications and, of course, deliver all the collaboration tools and more as part of the overarching service. What's obviously very important from it is how we deliver the quality of service and the standard and same user experience regardless of access method. I think that's a very, very important aspect of the workspace as a service. all of these services are all well defined within the proposition. We have a tried and tested migration methodology and migration approach, which will significantly also reduce the migration effort to the service should you decide to take advantage of it. And that allows you to obviously take advantage of the benefits a lot more quickly than a traditional migration program where you have the deployment and implementation of, potentially a reference architecture that you need to get up and running and working. The service is built, service has great capabilities, and includes all of the features that I've just spoken about. We also have an ongoing development program. So new functions and features that do come out, we do present them back into the online services portal, so you can get access to those. We run pilot programs within our customers as well. And through those pilot programs, they can decide whether they would like to adopt those new services as well moving forward. So I think overarching, we've got a great workspace service with a significant number of great features delivering services as part of the overall proposition.
Okay, so let's talk about money now. Although we think that cost reduction should not be the only driver for going for this solution, we as Getronics acknowledge that reducing cost within an IT organization is still an important factor for selecting a certain solution. So let's look at this table here, which is based on information from Gartner. What we are doing here is we compare a standard Fed client desktop with all the features around it, which is in the table to the left. We compare it with a hosted virtual desktop, typically the deployment in the way we offer it in our Workspace as a service model. If you look now to the direct costs, which is built up out of the hardware and software, but also add up IT operation and administration labor costs, you already see a reduction in the costs when you compare the standard desktop solution with the WAS model. But if you look to the end user costs, you see a lot more cost reduction. End user costs means time lost and costs created because of end users needing to call the help desk, explaining on the phone their solution, or perhaps downtime because their physical PC has broken down and they need to wait for 8 hours before their system has been restaged by the IT department. So all downtime that can be solved by a Workspace as a service offering where you have self-service capabilities, empowering the end user to take care of a lot of standard things themselves and have more efficient results, or decoupling the Workspace from their physical device. If my physical device goes down and I need to continue to work, I just have to grab another system, log on to my virtual desktop running in the Getronics data centers, and I can immediately continue my work without having to wait for an IT colleague to restage and copy all my data to my local workstation. And so if you look to that, we see 17% of cost reduction in the indirect costs we can bring to your organization should you go for this solution with the Workspace as a service offering from Getronics. And that 17%, you really should look at it as productivity improvement of your end users, and at the end, that's the goal of a good Workspace offering you want to bring into your organization. Now, should you be interested in this solution, what is our process for bringing customers to this platform? It depends a little bit on where you are in defining your Workspace strategy and your cloud strategy. So in case you haven't well defined yet your strategy on the evolution of Workspace and online services, cloud services, we can bring you through the whole process, starting with an initial presentation for your organization and bring awareness of the added value like we a little bit doing today to bring awareness of the added value of a Workspace as a service offering. And if that looks promising for your organization, we can start together with people from your internal IT and even from your business to better understand the business drivers within your organization. And we work together with your internal teams and consultants from Getronics in a discovery, what we call a discovery workshop. And out of that, we will have a presentation with a mutual and shared vision between Getronics and your IT organization and even your business users on what should be the way forward to the next phase in your Workspace offering. And if that vision you want to really work on that and make it a reality, we have what we call roadmap workshops where we look both to the technology components of Workspace as a service, but also on the services components because they are also very important. And with the results out of that workshops, we can create actually a roadmap where we have defined the current state of your environment, where we have defined what should be the future mode of operations. All the deltas are identified, and in this way we can together work on priorities and clearly make a roadmap into a final proposition for a Workspace as a service proposal from out of Getronics to your organization.
So to summarize, we've covered the proposition in a lot more detail. So that's all the functions, features, the benefits you get from the actual Workspace as a service. We've also covered the business drivers that you may have to adopting a cloud service from Getronics like the Workspace as a service. So thank you for covering the important next steps, Henk. I think those are very, very important from an engagement perspective and how we can move things forward from a customer engagement perspective. So that concludes the presentation part of the webinar. So at this point, we would like to respond to any questions that you may have raised during the webinar, and hopefully we can answer those for you right now. So we've got time for a number of questions. We really apologize for running over. We had a lot to cover. So let's get on to the questions straight away. First question we have, do the values against the total cost of ownership for the Workspace as a service model represent real figures, or are these indicative? Henk, if I can hand that one over to you.
Yeah, perfect. No problem to do that. Yeah, so basically the figures we showed you are based on an analysis done by Gartner. They have looked to a typical organization with 2,500 seats. So it's not figures we have taken from an actual project from a customer, but it should be comparable to your own organization. I think the most important message of this slide was that we want, of course, to show that you can have a decrease of costs on the direct costs for your IT if you go from a standard thick client, well-managed desktop environment to our Workspace as a service. And in most cases, you will have already a decrease of costs there. But the most important gain you will have is in the indirect costs because of the technology we use, because of the processes, because of the services Getronics has incorporated, like the self-service that has been shown in this Workspace as a service. Your users will become more productive and will have less downtime, and there is the most important gain in going for this solution. I think that's the message we would like to bring over with this cost example we gave to you.
Right, thank you, Henk. Right, next question. We have, what is Getronics' approach to migrating a customer to the service? So very, very good question. Over many years, of course, we've got some great experience with, customer transitions and transformation programs. But specifically with regards to the Workspace service, we've got some proven approaches to migrating email services using very specific tools that we use. So migrating customer email to the service, trying to get a seamless view so that there's no downtime at all. We also take quite a long time to do proper data discovery and discovery of the application set within a business. So the application preparation is then a fairly detailed process that we follow through and migrate those through a specific approach to testing the applications once they've been prepared and packaged and deployed to the system with UAT. So we migrate the applications into the platform, obviously keeping the original environment up and running during this whole time, so there's no downtime. Key is obviously the migration of data as well. So migrating of the user data set. So we migrate the user data set as well as the shared data, and also maintain the set of permissions as well from one environment to the next. This will essentially enable a smooth transition from the user's original desktop environment through to the cloud service in this instance. The network is always a very, very large consideration here. We need to make sure that we obviously maintain access to the business applications during the migration phase, and we sort of analyze each business application in its own merit and decide whether to implement a new installation of that particular application in our environment, or whether to migrate a sort of V2V approach with an application sitting on the old environment into the new environment to maintain that access. Clearly, we try and keep downtime to a minimum between the old environment and the new, and we work through a standard methodology, with program controls, ensuring that we have appropriate change management approach to ensure that access is provided at all times. So yeah, fairly standard approach here. Obviously, there's always some gotchas with each customer, whether these be either security or access issues, but we tend to get through these fairly quickly post migration. A new question. It looks like having connectivity is essential in order to use the WAS service. That's absolutely correct. Is there a way to work offline as well? Henk, if I could hand that one over to yourself.
In the current state of the solution, we rely on the connectivity. So connectivity is a must in order to use the online solution which we deliver to Workspace as a service. But typically, what we do is we bring in the already typically existing private MPLS based WAN network directly into our data centers. In this way, we can assure the quality of service end-to-end for the connectivity and bringing in the functionalities to the end user. And typically those MPLS networks are very, very redundant, multiple connections, either through lines or through wireless connectivity to the core network are foreseen. And in this way, we can guarantee also the connectivity to the Workspace as a service solution. And in addition to that, what we see also is that mobile networks like 3G or 4G and even Wi-Fi, they're all almost everywhere available, and you don't need a lot of bandwidth to have a good user experience in this Workspace as a service. So the connectivity issue shouldn't really be a problem for this type of solution with the current state of the technology.
Right. Thank you, Henk. We've got a number of questions around licensing and how files are stored within the service. So I'll probably combine a few of those. In terms of the Microsoft licenses, we're able to cater for customers that already have Microsoft licenses. So, for example, Microsoft Office licenses. However, Microsoft do stipulate that the licenses be purchased with mobility. So this essentially provides the capability for that license to be used in a Workspace as a service type environment or a DAS environment. So it is essential. We do an investigation into the type of license agreements you already have. So an example with Microsoft and make the relevant adjustment as required to those licenses and to the purchase of additional components for the licenses so it fits into the service. Clearly, we have a service provider agreement with Microsoft, so we can provide all licenses required for the service from all of the operating systems through to every Microsoft application license as well. In terms of storage, because we run a hybrid model, we've got the capability to allow users to continue to use desktops and laptops. There's no issue with that at all, and we can enable the service to allow connectivity to a local machine C drive as required to access any data that is on that drive. But typically, what we see customers wanting to move as much data onto the platform as possible, so that the data is actually available from anywhere and from any device. And I think that's quite an important component of the service. Clearly, there's always the opportunity to work offline, so you can store some data locally if you need access to sort of work away from the office where connectivity is not available. In terms of customer sizes, sorry, I'll just find another question here. Is this solution designed for any kind of company sizes, i.e. small companies with 5 to 20 employees or mid-sized companies with 100 employees? The platform is essentially designed in such a way as to cater for the SMB, SME type service. So essentially, we're happy to serve those customers from 100 users plus. We have a number of different sized companies on the platform already, and we're able to deliver a good quality of service to any of these. Specifically, mid-sized companies, I think is our immediate focus. So absolutely works very, very well from that regard. So 100 users plus up to a few thousand users, we can easily cater for and manage the capacity accordingly. So I think we're probably going to end it there. Sorry, we don't have enough time to answer more of those questions directly. We've definitely run sort of over time. So thank you very much for your patience. What we will do is we will collate all of the other questions that were submitted and respond to those separately as well. So don't worry, your questions will be answered. And that just leaves me to say thank you very much to Henk, who helped present the service today, and for taking some of the questions. And please feel free to contact either myself, Justin Parks, or Henk Halen for any further questions or demos or any further information about the service. So thank you very much, and goodbye.